Well, somebody asked me the question, how did this case develop then after the supplier said to me, would you come in and see what you could do? The first thing that I did is I met with the owner. I met with the father and the mother. And I met with him privately, and I had a series of questions I asked them. Then I asked their permission to meet with each of their children privately. And those same questions were asked of their children. And I also asked for permission to talk to their spouses, to the children's spouses. So I met with them privately, asked them the same series of questions. I asked permission from the parents if I could meet with all of their trusted advisors, the CPA, the accountant, the attorney, the banker, the insurance person. I asked for permission to speak to all of those trusted advisors. It's really remarkable the kind of information you can assimilate by just asking questions. This is not a right or a wrong way, but once I got the information, I then prepared a written report. And the result of that written report, we spent 2.5 days going over that report where the whole family came together. It was really a beautiful experience because people really got the ability to sort of look at some disinterested third party that objectively could look at. And it doesn't have to be me. It can be the accountant. It can be the attorney. It could be the insurance person. But that person has to be objective. He can't be selling a given product. What happens to his objectivity? It has to be a fee-based operation, it seems to me, to get that sense of objectivity. All of these children have got to feel, and the in-laws have got to feel, that that person is really listening to what they're saying. That this son-in-law is not being judged by someone because it's not working at home. That acknowledgement. And once that report is reviewed, the family makes a decision as to what their choice of actions are based on, at least in part, in terms of that report. They implement and agree upon the solutions. I work with the other advisors to make that happen. And as a result of that, people have a new way of looking at something, a new beginning. And most of us in our lives, for whatever reason, need a new beginning. And what's so beautiful about involving everyone, although at the time it looks like this is all chaos, wouldn't it be just better if nobody knew that this was happening? How many of your families and my family know what's happening? Really know. We may not put words to it, but we know things are not right. Why would anyone spend 45 or 50 years creating a business only to use that business as a source of dividing people rather than bringing them together? Does that make any sense at all? At least this approach gives them an opportunity to evaluate what they've done, allows their advisors to evaluate what they've done, and then make the changes. And from time to time, as Don and Fred agreed, all these changes have to reoccur. You have to re-examine them. So in this particular case, there was a buy-sell, a business continuation agreement, was funded with insurance. They started making additional gifts to people, and now this matter has to be resolved again in light of this relationship quirk. But who amongst us doesn't have those quirks happen? Where you have a son that you have utmost confidence in, and one day he dies before you do. What's it going to be like to be in a business relationship with your daughter-in-law's next husband? Attorney. So, once you look at all these issues, the only recourse, the only logical recourse I see is that you have to have the information and then you have to be responsible for the decision. But it's not a question of just creating a trust or a will. Or what does the trust and will have to do with the partnership or the corporation? Or is there an irrevocable trust involved? And how do they all coordinate? How do they all come together in some meaningful way for you? And have you done that? Have you done a good job of that? And if you have, go home and be thankful. If you haven't, then maybe you need to re-examine some of the conclusions and some of the ideas that you've had. So, with that as a consideration, I'd like Don to say a little bit about leadership and planning concepts as they relate to long-range planning. Would you do that now, Don, please?
Yeah, and I'm just going to take a few minutes. Is that in this family, nobody's really had any kind of update leadership management development. So that this family and most other families need to prepare the people that are coming up behind them to take over. Those family businesses that do that, whether that be seminars or university courses or whatever, to really plan it well ahead of time. And to know that relationship issues, will change the game as things go on. This business, like many others, also didn't have a long-range planning system, meaning they didn't bring together their employees and the family members and really determine where they were going in the next 5 years. And so they don't have a long-range planning system either. So that's another thing that they need to have. And I think that's all I'll say about that, Carl.
Okay, I would like to ask any of you at this moment in time if you have any questions or comments or solutions for this family. And if we talk about the questions, maybe some of you have some solutions. And I'm really sincere about that. I would really welcome anybody's comments about this scenario or any other scenario that you either know about or that you're concerned about. Is there? Yes, sir.
Well, I had a question. Don had mentioned that he had not been back, and it seemed like in that particular case, that family probably needed his end of the spectrum as much as any. And during comment as to why maybe they didn't try and keep on.
Yeah, I want Don to respond to that, but I was the one that had the longest relationship with these people, and I'll tell you that this family is just devastated by this most recent news of this unfaithfulness. I mean, it has just devastated this family. And we've offered them our services and time and effort, and they just need some time to really heal what's happening and just really re-examine. This father and mother are just devastated by what's happened to their daughter and their son-in-law and that relationship. And until that relationship really heals at some point, it's going to be really difficult. And that impacts all the other family members as well. But Don has offered his services. It's just really a question of are they ready and when will they be ready? It's really, and you have some comment on that.
Yeah, and my only comment was they live a long ways from where I do. What I would have done was to help them find somebody locally. So, and Carl is quite right. They're not really ready to look at that right now. They really don't know what that son-in-law is going to do. And so they do need some time to reflect, and they do have some resistance to professional help. But I try to get them somebody locally.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people there locally. They live near a big center.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, sir. That's correct. There was no a business continuation agreement. There was no stock redemption plan within the corporation. And that was part of the problem. And they couldn't deal with that until they were really, at some real level, they couldn't deal with that until they were willing to deal with these relationship issues. And so I just, because that undergirded a lot of that, because the mother was saying, what are my two sons going to have? And they had a hard time between the father and the mother trying to decide what that value should be and how they're going to pay for it, how they're going to create that necessary money.